Good morning. It's time to finally introduce my wonderful panelists for the Women in Gaming Breakfast event. So, my friends, ladies, would you like to come out on stage? Everyone give them a round of applause. Woo! And now you know why I wore the Carmen Sandiego fit. How else could I compete with this? They look amazing. So, and I've refined my greetings. So, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, welcome to the Women in Gaming Breakfast panel. And by the way, I wore this fit, and only a few minutes ago, Nancy informs me that she used to work at the company that developed the Carmen Sandiego games. Anywhere else in the world, and I would have said, what are the odds? But this is GamesBeat Summit, so the odds are actually pretty good in our case. So on that note, I would like my panelists to introduce themselves. Oh, wait, before I do that, in case you don't know me, hi, I'm Rachel Kaser. I'm a news writer at GamesBeat, and I'm here with this wonderful, thank you, this wonderful panel talking about getting back to growth. Now what? And I would like my panelists to introduce themselves, starting here with you.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. I'm Angela Dalton, founder and CEO and CIO of Signum Growth.play. I have a very traditional finance background at UBS, Evercore, Guggenheim, always in the media group, and I called myself the stepchild in the media group because I've been focusing on video games since around 2003 and emerging technologies. And I left to start Signum to focus solely on, in 2018, we founded the company to focus solely on emerging technologies intersection with video games. And we do a lot in Web3. We work with the Polkadot network primarily. We do, and really, just to give a one-liner on that, it's really about provenance, authenticity, kind of the original vision of Web3. It's not about speculation and trading. It should be invisible in the background. And AI, and then most recently, we launched a fund. Well, in 2023, we came up with the idea, and we've been investing for about a year and a half now directly into Roblox and Fortnite games.
Is working? Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Carla Bedrosian. I'm Global Chief Legal Officer at Xsolla.
You can leave the microphone on. Yeah. Do you need help? Yes. Okay. Technical issues. Hold on.
Just use mine.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Nancy MacIntyre, unable to work the microphone. I'm the CEO of WorldWinner, which is a real money gaming platform that's been around, believe it or not, for 25 years. So when we talk about driving growth, we know a little bit about that. But I've been working in gaming my entire career. I mean, not only have I worked on Carmen Sandiego, but things like Roller Coaster Tycoon, Civilization, Wheel of Fortune, Myst, I mean, the list goes on. I mean, I've been so privileged to work on some just amazing stuff. And now I work in real money gaming after doing kids products for a long time. So I say I've moved from nice to vice, and I'm super happy to be here.
I like that.
This is an amazing panel. I'm so happy to be up here with all of you. I guess if we're going to start, I should start with the most obvious question. Is the mic working, Carla?
Is it?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Okay, yeah.
Yay. Yay for triumph over technical difficulties. But if the subject of the talk is now getting back to growth and now what? So I guess let's start with the most obvious question, and we can start down here with you, Angela. Now what?
So, as I mentioned, my lens is investing directly into Roblox and Fortnite, and so I'm seeing a wide kind of bifurcation, I guess, in experiences since post-pandemic, which is we all know that there have been a lot of layoffs. There's a lot of kind of lack of growth, I would say, in the industry, and then also there are pockets that are growing very strongly, and so we're seeing a tremendous growth in Roblox specifically. Full disclosure, we're also investors. Prior to investing directly into the content, we invested in Epic Games, Discord, Mythical Games, so in the equity. So we're investors in Epic, full disclosure, and I would say that these UGC platforms are pulling in not only some of these developers that may have been laid off from bigger places and are thinking, well, you know, I'm an indie developer, I can try this out too. I've been meeting a lot of those people. And it's a combination of that and so many people who grew up on the platform who are now in their late 20s, and especially Roblox, which has been around 17 years. So I'm seeing a lot of growth still there. But again, it's very much kind of, it's much more bifurcated growth.
Most certainly the double-digit growth that a lot of companies experienced during the pandemic are over. Borrowing is not as cheap as it once was, but I think that's going to have, in some ways, a very meaningful impact in our industry, because it's necessitated companies to, I think, to self-reflect and to make better decisions in terms of investment. And I think Xsolla is a perfect example of that. In the last 2 years, we've invested very heavily in going back to the basics, which are how do you engage players in a more meaningful way in the marketplace, and how do you solve basic monetization questions for our game developers. And so 2025 is a really exciting year because we're launching a lot of new products. So yes, it's a difficult time. There have been immense layoffs, but it's also, there are opportunities for immense growth. We have Nintendo Switch 2 coming out this year, Grand Theft Auto 6 coming out this year. There's an epic, monumental decision in Epic versus Apple. And as a result, it's going to allow game publishers to keep more of their money. And what they do with that this year is really interesting, so I'm going to look out for that. So I think 2025 is going to be an intense year and a lot of launches, and there's opportunities definitely for growth. It's just shifting.
I sort of look at this slightly differently because, you know, I think as a games industry, we should be really psyched about the fact that the category is still growing. People are playing more games than ever before, and there are more gamers than ever before. You know, almost over 3 billion gamers around the world. Our category is still growing at, depending on who you ask, between 6 and 10% a year in terms of revenue. But we're really in a reset mode around how games get developed, how games get distributed, where they're made, how they're managed, et cetera. And so, you know, I think it's important for all of us to just really be thinking about the fundamental shift in almost the business and the development of games, because we're in a great spot that we have a category that more people want to play than ever before. And so that means that as we invest our time in finding new ways to bring them to market, to sell them, I mean, the Apple, Epic, and ultimately Google lawsuits are going to be great for game developers, and that will drive growth. And so, you know, I actually think that we're in a super exciting time in terms of our reset around the growth trajectory.
And I'm noticing a common theme here with the answers of getting back to growth and sort of what we've been through the last few years as well, which was complicated, let us say, if we're choosing a diplomatic term. So, Carla, I wonder if I can start with you. What do you think should be the big takeaways of the last few years that we can use to apply to the industry moving forward?
Well, this is Women in Gaming, so I'm going to go back to women.
Absolutely.
Okay. So at Xsolla, we've had monumental growth for women in gaming. Can you hear me better?
Yeah.
Okay. So since the pandemic, it's amazing. 41% of our workforce internationally is women, and that's pretty intense. Given the average is approximately like 25 to 30%. We have increased our female workforce by 271% since COVID, which is intense. And female leadership by 241%, which is intense. So we have a different approach, and I think this is sort of our takeaway. And and something I'd like to share is we have a merit-first approach to hiring and retention, which is absolutely consistent with promoting diversity. And we've focused instead on removing barriers that have traditionally kept women out of tech. And the three things that come to mind, who's that clapping? Thank you. And the three things that we really focused on is very healthy and competitive leave, which has been very attractive for women, parental leave. The second one is automating reviews and promotions, or it's really remove the bias from that process. Yes, and the third is offering flexible working arrangements for women, which is very attractive to women, hybrid, remote only. And so those things have played a very critical role in our retention of women. So I did want to focus on that. And so for me, these are the things that are top of mind going into 2025 and 2026.
Angela or Nancy, you want to go next? Nancy, do you want to go?
What was
The original question. What do you think are the takeaways from the last period when we were not, to put it mildly, we were not in a growth period? What takeaways do you think we can bring from that period to improve the industry going forward?
Well, I do think there's been a lot written about how did we get to a place where we were growing like crazy during the pandemic. And, it was a time between, 2020 and 2024 that there were unprecedented mergers and acquisitions in the games industry. There was lots of investment, all the teams scaled, big, budgets, et cetera. And then when the business started, scaling down, there was all significant changes, layoffs, et cetera. And I hope that this time around we're a little bit more measured in terms of our approach to scaling our investment so that we don't have these incredible highs and then incredible lows, because it's very difficult for people working in the industry to live in that kind of an environment. And we're not the first industry to deal with this. Like if you look at what's happened in Hollywood, it's almost a blueprint for what has happened in the games industry. And I hope we can learn from that and not make the same mistakes.
I can add to that, which is that the venture capital industry is partially to blame for this, because I remember at the very peak these guys pouring money in, and I was one of these guys in the group. But one of the investments that we made in particular, a big VC came in, and we were involved very early stage. So, but a bigger VC came in kind of mid stage and poured money into the company and said, hire as fast as you can, hire everyone. You need to create your barrier to entry and your moat around your business. And then, of course, as soon as the industry turned down, those same people came back and said, now let everyone go as fast as you can. I mean, so it's really, I think that founders need to have more control over their own destiny. And I'm hopeful that venture capitalists will have learned to not be so aggressive. Yeah, and so that's one thing. And one thing, I shout out to Dean and GamesBeat. In March 2020, Juja James and I, because we were online during COVID, created Women in Gaming Zoom. We meet every 2 weeks. Anybody in the room is welcome to join. Actually, Nicole Lazaro, I think, is already, yep, there she is. She joins. We meet every 2 weeks, and we've been doing that since March of 2020, and we don't put anything on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook or any of that. We just meet, and it's a off the record discussion on how we can help each other. And then we always feature one woman in the group who's either an entrepreneur, founder, or investor. So you're all welcome to join that.
Just to add to that point, Xsolla is self-funded, which is amazing in the sense that we don't have VCs who are driving our growth. But it's really, so.
On that note, so we talk about the things that we can take away in the industry, but how can we implement the lessons that we've learned? Like, what is your advice for the companies out there who don't want a repeat of what happened during the bust period after the pandemic growth? So, what would you recommend to avoid making the same mistakes again? So,
I mean, this is super boring, but ultimately a focus on driving whatever your profitability metrics are and managing your cash. I mean, it's not the most exciting way to run a games business, but it's almost the only way to run a games business when the cost of capital is very high. It's unclear where your next level of investment might be coming from. You really owe it to yourself and your employees to be managing for your cash flow and your profitability so that you are there to fight another day and to do good things. And to balance that with, how do you make things that are exciting and fun and move the needle, but also managing your finances carefully along the way.
I was going to say cash is king. So, as she said.
Yeah, I think innovation is king. And so that's sort of our, that's our bedrock and not necessarily cash. And I think if you focus on innovation, driving player engagement, solving real monetization issues for publishers, I think at the end of the day, that's gonna get you to cash is king. But to really focus on innovation instead. I think that's a lesson from COVID for sure.
And I'm curious, and I ask this a lot at the panels, but I always get interesting responses whenever I do. What would your advice be to somebody who is entering the industry now? So the future leaders of the games industry, some of whom may be in the audience right now. So what advice would you give them? And is it the same advice that you would have given them, say, 5 years ago? So Angela, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So one of the gentlemen on my team, I met when he was in high school about 5 years ago. So, and I advised him to start building an UEFN and Fortnite, Roblox at the time, and then Fortnite came along. If I was advising anyone in the games industry right now, I would say take a look at these UGC platforms. Even if you might just be making a demo or a brand building exercise or a marketing moment, the numbers are kind of undeniable. This weekend, Roblox hit a peak again. Every week they hit another peak. 15 million CCUs on the whole platform, and one game had 5 million concurrent players. The peak on Steam was 3.2 million back in PUBG back in 2017. So this is not the gaming that we all know and love necessarily. It doesn't look the same. It looks more like social media. Having said that, there are a lot of players there and a lot of fun is being had there. And so I think it's good just to dabble in some of these places, even if it just means marketing. Our mantra and investment is merge onto the highway of behavior that is already happening. And so that's what I would advise anyone new coming into the industry. Look where the behavior is shifted and do that.
Carla?
Yes, so my advice is get ready for a lot of late night learning. That's sort of my motto at home. With the advent of technology, there's so much new development, there's interesting markets, whether you're talking about Web3, you're talking about crypto, or in the ad space, the regulatory scheme, landmark rulings, becoming, master of your own products and services you're offering to the world and those of your competitors. I mean, the learning is endless, and for those of us women who are absolutely super ambitious, I think it's critical that you stay ahead of that. One of the things I do is I sign up for, free, as many free classes as I can. PLI offers a lot. There's TED Talks. It's just endless. But I think for me, that sort of gives me the edge of being a global chief legal officer of a company that has innovation at its heart. So get ready for a lot of late night learning.
One of my own personal goals is I talk to 5 new graduates or soon-to-be graduates every single week. I like to talk to people that aren't in the industry yet but want to be, and I've got tons of advice about all kinds of stuff, which is generally useless, but I really get something more out of talking to be soon-to-be graduates or new graduates than they probably get out of me. But what I do say to everyone is that the pathway into the games industry doesn't have to be a straight line. and most often, particularly now, it won't be a straight line. It might not be right into game design or right into production or right into coding. It could be literally into the mailroom, or it could be into localization or the straight path of QA, et cetera. If you want to be in the games industry, figure out what skills you have and what is the circuitous route to get in there, because you will have lots of opportunities once you get into a game company to move your way up. And there are so many examples out there in the world of people that started in the mailroom, or look at the CEO of GM. She started on the production line. Look at Jack Welch. Look at a wide variety of people that didn't go straight into their dream job. And so having the right frame of reference that all I want to do is have a path that gets me into the games industry is kind of eye-opening, because there are literally thousands of different kinds of jobs that anybody can do, that you don't have to have a technical degree or a creative degree, and you might be able to move right in. So be open-minded about what your end goal is, and you may discover something interesting.
Can I just add to that?
Absolutely.
So
Thank you.
I was just going to add to that the other day somebody mentioned, what are the hottest new jobs like coming out of college in gaming? And I said the new mailroom manager is the community manager.
Yeah.
Because the biggest hack is creating that community, and if you can be part of that kind of bubbling up from the bottom in the early days of your career, you really understand a key part of our industry.
Yeah, I mean, I would just add to that more games, and you all know this, more games are becoming live ops games. They are games that require ongoing support for players, for monetization, et cetera. And when you think about live ops games and the things that they're comparable to Amazon Prime Video, they're comparable to Netflix or Hulu or Spotify, et cetera. And so all those jobs that are around managing the community, managing the product, looking at the features, analyzing the data, like some of them aren't all that sexy, but they really make a difference in terms of how the company performs. And they are the kinds of jobs that you don't have to be a creative for, and but still are games industry roles.
And just to circle back to women, so I think we can't let up on the emphasis of our younger girls getting into STEM, because the numbers are still woefully low. In the gaming industry, women are pretty well represented in marketing and branding. Certainly in my legal department, it's majority female, and have made strides getting into finance departments, and HR certainly, but we are woefully lacking in the tech industry as a whole. I think it's still 1 in 5 women graduating from engineering programs, 1 in 5 are female. So we really need to not let up on that. So I encourage all of you that have daughters and sisters and what have you to continue doing that, because we're all competing to hire that very small pool of women, and we just need a lot more of them. And we can't let up on that.
Yeah, and encourage them to be builders, not just players.
That's right.
I love that. Thank you. Yes. Clap for women in gaming.
Yeah, I like to say encourage them to be the controllers, right? So it's even sort of deeper than that, yeah.
Yeah.
I got some snaps on that.
There's a new... Yeah, I was going to say, what I should have said is builder/creator. I have a 13-year-old daughter.
So do I.
Who plays a lot of... Oh,
yes.
Cool. So my daughter plays a lot of Roblox and Fortnite.
Mine too.
And yours does
Yeah.
too. And so, and you look at the stats, and yes, Roblox is 50-50, girls, boys, but if you look at the developers, it's still heavily weighted to the male side. So I said to her,
Yes.
if you're going to play that game, figure out how to make another game.
Yes.
Figure out how to, if you want to spend a lot of time in this, build something, create
Yeah.
something.
And then do that, and then own the shop that sells the goods, and then everything else. So and then bring more people on, and then promote each other, and so on and so forth. So, yeah.
I feel left out because
Get
I
those
don't have a
Robux.
13-year-old daughter.
Yeah, Robux. I'm more interested in the Robux. Yeah.
So I guess I think we only have time for one more question. So now that, again, a follow-up on the now what question would be, what do you want to see in 2025? And we'll start with you, Nancy, down there.
Well, that's a big question. I'm gonna.
30 seconds or less.
30 seconds or less.
Yeah.
I wanted to start with the White House, but I won't. Yeah. Yeah. Look, I will say the same thing I said before. Like everyone in this room that is in the games industry, focus on helping the people around you and the people that want to get jobs, and give the advice you can, because you'll get way more out of it than they will. So when people ask for help, help them. You know, do whatever you can to help them. That's what I want. And then apply it to your everyday life, because we all need help. Yeah.
What was your question?
What would you like to see in 2025 in the games industry?
More promotions of women.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, period. So, I mean, yeah. Yes. No layoffs.
Too late.
So
Too late.
I definitely,
fewer.
yeah, promotions is a good thing. We have a mantra around authenticity. So a lot of people talk about authenticity, and they value authenticity, and yet the internet, really kicked off by Cambridge Analytica back in 2016. The internet is in a crisis of authenticity, and AI is only pouring gasoline on that fire, and inauthenticity is exploding. And so that's why I still care about Web3, because I believe, in the Polkadot network we work with, I believe that we can secure the authenticity and provenance of a lot of these assets, and we can, it can happen in the background, and it can happen in a way that is good for the players, where we still focus on the fun, where we don't focus on trading tokens or any of the stuff that happened in that first wave, but we just focus on the technology and the power to empower creators and builders. So I want to focus more on authenticity.
Thank you so much, all the three women here on my panel. And I, unfortunately, am going to have to let all of you go. I wish we had time for more. I could spend all day up here talking to the three of you. It would be so much fun. But unfortunately, we have to move. Well, fortunately and unfortunately, we have to move on to the rest of the conference now. But everyone give a big round of applause for Nancy and
Thank you,
Angela
Rachel.
and to Carla.